Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Scotland at 7 with me, Gordon Ross. Joining me in the studio this evening via our interesting computer link is, of course, Sam Paton, a regular contributor and famous for her Save Loch Lomond campaign. Welcome back to you, Sam.
Thank you, Gordon.
Okay, and also joining us this evening, Effie Samara, who is a academic and writer. Welcome back, Effie.
Hi, Gordon.
Okay, so we've got everybody introduced. It's time to get on with the coronavirus update. Now, as of 2 o'clock today, a total of 662,133 people in Scotland have now been tested through NHS Scotland labs and UK government regional testing centres. Now, of these, 640,094 were confirmed negative, 22,039 were positive. There are 161 new confirmed cases of COVID-19. But there have been no new reported deaths of people who have tested positive today. This will be an underestimate of the number of cases. Not everyone with the virus will display symptoms, and not all of those with symptoms will be tested. Of the people who have tested positive, 266 were in hospital last night, 7 of whom are in intensive care. The number of patients in Scotland who have died from complications caused by coronavirus, COVID-19 infection, now stands at 2,499. This number only includes those who have died in hospital having received a positive test for the virus. The latest UK daily figures available show that 41,608 patients who tested positive for COVID-19 have sadly died from their illness, an increase of 14 since yesterday. This number refers to deaths in all settings and not just to hospitals. And now to, first of all, before we go to our main story this evening, I'd like to remind you that you can join in the conversation here, and you can do so on Twitter by following us at Broadcast Scot using the hashtag Scotland@7. And now to that first story this evening. Maximum gathering numbers have been set at 6 people from 2 households. The number of people who can gather together indoors or outdoors will be set at a maximum of 6 from 2 households. Moves announced today by the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, will be enforced from Monday the 14th of September, but people are urged to abide by these stricter new limits immediately. Children under 12 from within the 2 households will not be counted in the new limit of 6 people. The restrictions do not apply where there is other sector-specific guidance in force, for example in gymnasiums or for childcare or organised sports, and there will be some other limited exceptions for larger households, education and places of worship. It does apply to hospitality. Now, along with these new measures, the First Minister also confirmed that Scotland will not move out of Phase 3. As a result of a rise in coronavirus COVID-19 infections, the route map changes that have given a conditional indicative start date of Monday the 14th of September, conditional on progress against the epidemic, but have now been given a new indicative date of Monday the 5th of October. A final decision will be taken nearer the time, confirming this new indicative date. The measures announced today, as I've said before, are a maximum of 6 people within 2 households, excluding children. Face coverings should be worn in hospitality settings, apart from during the service of food and drink, with hospitality staff following similar rules as retail staff from Monday. Up to 20 people will still be able to attend funerals, weddings and civil partnership ceremonies, with a limit permitted for wakes and receptions rising to 20 in line with this, as long as they take place in regulated venues like hotels with strict guidance in place. The route map moves expected from Monday the 14th of September and now given that new indicative date of Monday the 5th of October. Let me take your opinion first, Effie, on this. Now, it's I suppose not unexpected, is it, that Nicola Sturgeon would start to reintroduce some specific measures. Why do you think the targeting has been so specific at households? Is there evidence that there are problems there?
Well, according to the public health experts, the Devi Stritva from the University of Edinburgh, it appears to be that way. It appears that going through the evidence, they have concluded that it's not to do with, there was a hospitality-related outbreak up in Aberdeen, but the cases down south, to the west of Scotland, so the Glasgow cases, the Greater Glasgow, the Dunbartonshire cases, were traced back to mostly household gatherings. Interestingly enough, we have not, and thankfully, we have not seen outbreaks within schools yet. Let's hope this continues.
Yeah.
So I believe the evidence is still very much to do with household gatherings, house parties, and so on. So I think that on the evidence that we've been presented, it appears that this is the main source, and therefore this is the target area as of now, Gordon.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Sorry, Effie, I beg your pardon, get my Sams and Effies mixed up this evening. Okay, over to you, Sam, this time, get your names right. Sam, this appears to be a problem with families, it seems. Do you think there's too much sort of hugging and general closeness? I mean, obviously it's a natural thing, isn't it, for families to do and households to be quite close to each other, and specifically, I think, where family have immediate relatives living nearby, perhaps.
Oh, please don't put me in the position of saying about hugging. I absolutely miss hugging people at the moment.
Well, you're not alone.
I'm a hugger, and I just miss it when I see people. I can't hug them and fight that urge. I don't know. I think, Gordon, when we're at home, we're comfortable in our own surroundings, and if we go and visit family, we're comfortable, and we have probably became slightly complacent in the sense of washing hard surfaces and just wiping everything down. You know, what's the touch points like door handles and light switches and all these things. Whereas when you're in hospitality settings, they've got procedures in place, so these
That's all
points
done
are
for
always
you.
getting done.
Yeah.
They're done for you. They're always getting done. And even if you're at work, you are automatically go into work mode and you're kind of washing down surfaces, wiping everything, washing your hands, and you're doing all these things. But when you're at home, you're comfortable, you're relaxed, and, you know, you don't think that you need to be washing your hands every 2 minutes or wiping surfaces down every I think that's more what's happening. And it's just unfortunate it is in the home setting, because at the end of the day, you know, we like our families, we like to socially interact, and it's not everybody can go to a pub or a restaurant or a beer garden to see family. Some people, they rely on visiting each other at home, so it's quite difficult. But as I say, I don't think people are hugging too much. I miss my hugging.
Never mind, Sam. I'm sure we'll be hugging again soon. Anyway,
I'm sure we will be.
Well, moving on to another COVID-related story now. And the Protect Scotland app has launched today. The First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, has urged smartphone users across Scotland to download the NHS Scotland's new contact tracing app to help suppress the spread of the coronavirus COVID-19. The Protect Scotland app is now available to download free via Apple and Google stores. Supported by a dedicated Protect Scotland website, the app is an extra tool complementing the existing person-to-person contact tracing, which remains the main component of NHS Scotland's Test and Protect system. The individual's privacy will be protected as the app uses Bluetooth technology to anonymously alert users if they have been in close contact with someone who's tested positive for COVID-19 and advises them to self-isolate. Users of the app who test positive themselves will still get a call from a contact tracer to confirm their details and who they've been in close contact with. The app, incidentally, does not store details on an individual or their location, but uses encrypted, anonymised codes exchanged between smartphones to determine all close contacts. Close contacts are defined as people who have been within 2 metres of someone who has tested positive for 15 minutes. Designed by the software developers Nearform for NHS Scotland, the app uses the same technology as the Republic of Ireland and Northern Irish proximity tracing apps. Sign up is entirely voluntary, but strongly recommended for those with compatible smartphones. Now, again, I think I'll come to you first, Effie, on this one. It sounds like a great idea, but obviously this is going to be it was only going to be successful if enough people actually download the app. Now, I should emphasize it is free, of course, so it's very easy to do this, isn't it?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think on an initial showing of things, it has been downloaded. Do correct me if I'm wrong. I believe by 250,000 people so far over the last few hours. So that was the last tweet, I believe, that was from the First Minister, who said that it was quite successful, the download this morning, and people were very open to it, and they were downloading the app. Now, obviously, we would urge to do so. Please download the app. I believe that all your personal details and all the concerns that were attached to the English system are not at all the case up here. So your anonymity will be preserved. And also there is no credit check related to the app, as opposed to, again, what was required by the English app. So this is entirely to do with, this is a complementary service, as you said. So it's not replacing the person-to-person tracing contact by the NHS. So had someone been exposed, they would still be contacted by NHS Scotland. But this is complementary, and it would obviously enhance one's chances of protecting themselves and protecting others. So as we move into winter, these considerations are important. Moving a bit closer to Christmas now as well. People, as Sam said, there might be a bit of hugging or a bit more interacting than there has been. So it is important. Do look it up. We do believe it's perfectly safe, and we do encourage you to download.
Okay, well, listen, thank you, Effie. Now, coming to you, Sam, I know that you're highly sceptical about anything where we have to give our details to anybody online, and particularly over mobile phones. But the fact that the data that's being gathered during the exchanges between the phones is only temporary, does that reassure you in any way that there's not going to be any big computer somewhere with your details being harvested? Does it reassure you?
Yeah, it does reassure me. And listening to Effie there, I'm sitting thinking, yeah, maybe I need to look into this. Maybe this will be safe, because I trust Effie's judgment. So if Effie's telling me that it's going to be safe, so I will look into it. But as Effie says, and it is a tool, and it's not a solution. It's part of a tool, and we need to be still doing the face coverings, the social distancing, and washing hands, all these things. And one of the things that I've noticed since yesterday is NHS Scotland are actually recruiting more people for contact tracing, which is it shows that they are getting ready for the winter months, and there's a possibility that there could be more cases and things. But again, it's all about people using this as a tool with everything else that we've got. And hopefully we can, I mean, at the end of the day, we brought the virus numbers down before. We can do it again and stop them from rising.
Okay, well, thanks very much for that, Sam. I can tell you actually that I have already downloaded this application myself, so I have it on my own phone, and actually it's very useful for people like myself who come into daily contact with strangers as a matter of business, and to know who you've been in contact with and whether or not they've tested positive be very useful. Anyway, I'd like to move on to our next story now, and this is the UK Cabinet, and it's been told that yes support has reached its highest recorded level at 56%. The SNP has renewed calls on the Tory government to come clean over secret polling of the Scottish electorate on independence, and an alleged cabinet briefing that puts support for yes at 56%, the highest recorded. On Monday, Mujaba Rahman, a professor of political risk who previously worked for the UK Treasury, wrote to The Guardian that ministers are increasingly nervous that a Scottish breakaway is on the cards, and that the Cabinet was told the latest polling puts support for independence at 56%. Tommy Shepherd MP has written to Alistair Jack, a member of the Cabinet, asking where the 56% figure comes from, and has urged him to release all the data that the UK government holds on support for Scottish independence through secret taxpayer-funded polling. Now, Effie, this is a very interesting story because it seems to show at least that the British government is conducting polling, which we're unaware of, at least until this was leaked. What does this tell you, do you think, about the way the British government is reacting at the moment to what's happening in Scotland? Are they worried? Is this why they're starting to do these polls?
Absolutely. I think the evidence shows that they are indeed very, very concerned. The fact that they are commissioning polling, again, using taxpayers' money, which is not really the way to go about things, demonstrates a level of anxiety within the cabinet and the wider ranks of the Tory government, which was only to be expected, Gordon, following the debacles of the last 4 years. This was a close call in 2014. It was a lot of the European vote that actually tipped the balance. Now, considering that this has almost turned on its head and everything else that has happened, I personally, I believe, although I have not gone out to conduct polling, I believe that the support for independence stands at a bit higher than 56. But that notwithstanding, it demonstrates a stance which, as an academic, I would call this an adherence to a colonial approach by the British government. Now, they are known for this, so this isn't news. This is how they hold on to different territories and regions, and that, historically has happened all over the world over the last 300 years. But this is obviously a very, very specific case. Scotland is very much under the British umbrella, geographically, religiously, culturally, what have you. Yeah. So to them, this is a hugely important piece of territory, if you like, and they are obviously very, very anxious. Now, the thing that concerns me the most is what their tactics and strategies are going to be moving forward on from now, and how they might try to subvert this tendency, this groundswell for desire for independence, and what other tools they may use in order to place obstacles. So we need to be very aware of those, and we need to be very critical of anything that may be promised or that may be said in the context of that. But on evidence, I believe that even anecdotal evidence, people who were religiously Tory supporters, we have seen them now change their mind. So they are aware of these things, and there will be tactics to undermine them. It remains to be seen what happens. I don't think it's going to be a smooth ride. So we need to be prepared.
Okay, well, listen, thanks for that, Effie. Sam, over to you. Did it surprise you to hear that there'd been a poll done by the British government and the fact that independence support appears to have risen another percentage point?
Yeah, it did surprise me, because the first thing is what are they up to? At the end of the day, as Effie says, we want to know what their next step's going to be, their tactics and their strategies, because why did they show this poll and show that independence is rising? We know independence is rising, the need for independence and the people wanting it. 56%, I don't believe it's sitting as low as that, because even just when you're out and about in your own communities, you're talking to people and you're hearing people talk, and you're hearing more and more people, especially at the moment with, Boris Johnson is a great recruiter for people turning over to the Yes campaign. He did a marvellous job, because the amount of people that I know that were staunch no voters and staunch about, keep the union together and everything, are now going, do you know something? No, it's time we were independent. So well done to Boris Johnson. So, yeah, however, in saying that, I don't believe it's 56%. I think there's a part of me that's very, very sceptical. As you know, I can. It's part of my nature.
You're sceptical.
I know. I just think, what are they up to? They're up to something. Are they trying to say, yeah, it's rising, but it's not that much? It's only sitting at 56%, when we know other polls are showing higher figures. So yeah, they're up to something, and I think we're just going to have to kind of keep our eyes out on what's going to come next.
Okay, well, what's going to come next is what we're going to talk about next, hopefully. And our next story this evening concerns a cross-party amendment which will reject an attack on devolution. The SNP has tabled a cross-party amendment to reject the Tory power grab bill, warning that it would break the law and destroy the foundations of devolution in Scotland. The reasoned amendment, tabled by the SNP Westminster leader Ian Blackford MP, is backed by 6 parties from all 4 UK nations, including the SNP, the Liberal Democrats, Plaid Cymru, the SDLP, the Greens and Alliance Party. It rejects the bill at second reading because it breaks international law and is contrary to the established devolution settlement. It comes amid mounting opposition to the Tory government's bill, with the Scottish and Welsh governments vowing to resist the power grab, cross-party opposition in the Scottish and Welsh parliaments, and growing opposition within the Tory party itself and government. The SNP has warned that the internal market bill will enable the UK government to block or overrule the democratic will of the Scottish Parliament in key devolved areas, including health, education, transport, food and environmental standards, and infrastructure and state aid. And meanwhile, pressure is mounting on the Scottish Tory legal chief, Richard Keane, the UK government's law officer for Scotland, to refuse to give his consent to the proposed UK internal market bill, which threatens a power grab on devolution and which will, as UK ministers have admitted, break international law. Lord Keane, the Advocate General for Scotland, had previously said it is essential that the law officers are champions of the rule of law within government. The former Tory Solicitor General, Lord Garnier, said the job of law officers, amongst many other things, is to maintain the rule of law in government, to make sure that ministers behave by it. And if they insist on not doing so, then one's advice would conflict with the client's instructions and you would have to go, I think. The law officers need to ask themselves some very deep questions. Yesterday, the Welsh Tory Shadow Counsel General and the Shadow Minister for Culture and Communications, David Melding MS, quit over Boris Johnson's power grab bill. Effie, let me come to you first of all on this. Now, this power grab bill, as it's characterised by the SNP, is obviously the Tories are calling it the internal market bill. But is that really what the purpose is of this bill? Is it simply just to protect the internal market, or does it have some ulterior motive?
Yes, it does. The ulterior motive is to violate the Good Friday Agreement and to transgress areas of devolved competencies.
Yep.
These are the actual aims of this bill. It is very clear, Article 46, Article 47. I would highly urge our viewers to actually have a read, leaf through it. Don't read the whole thing, but make sure that you look at the underlying areas of concern here, which are very, very important. So we're talking about the UK government transgressing specific areas of devolved competency. So, for example, environmental standards, food, state aid, and it also covers the areas of health, infrastructure, and I did mention environment and schools and education. So these have traditionally been, going back to even the Act of Union, have traditionally been reserved to the Scottish Parliament. This proposes to violate that. And it proposes that the British government, the Westminster Parliament, will come in and determine who gets what. And that is very clearly a breach. The other thing that it does do is it violates the protocol on Northern Ireland. Now, we have seen the immediate reaction from the United States in a short message from Nancy Pelosi, who's the leader of the House in America, and she has warned that any breach of the Good Friday Agreement, which was sponsored by the United States, Bill Clinton and others, and that was the result of years and years of work. The late Mo Molam and others were involved in this.
Indeed.
And they are now proposing to override this and go back and renege on that promise. The remedies available in international law, we don't have to go into that, but they are numerous. The EU, in fact, are threatening action. But even beyond that, even the reputational damage that this would do to a country is immense. And also, when we're talking about this an intimate relationship between the Anglophone world and the United States and the United Kingdom. Again, this has completely been trumped by Nancy Pelosi and what she had to say. In fact, she's not the only one. Other senators have come forward over the last couple of years and said that the Good Friday Agreement is inviolable. The thing that this bill does is it puts these proposals into primary legislation. So, in fact, they can be subject to an executive instrument. And given also the majority of 80 within the House of Commons, over the next few years, we are basically confronting a situation where the executive within 10 Downing Street could decide on any one of these areas, and it would automatically be implemented. It is a very, very dangerous bill, and it proposes to change completely the image and the spirit of devolution as we know it.
Okay, well, that was a very fulsome answer, Sam. I'm sorry. I'll come to you in a moment, Sam. Sam, let me come to you, as I said. Now, one of the things which Effie was mentioning there is the fact that there is obviously another reason for this bill, and when we were talking earlier on about the way in which the UK, the way that Scotland is now viewed by the UK government as threatening to break away from the UK, one of the traditional methods, which obviously the British state has used for years with former colonies, was to divide and conquer by trying to split them up. And this appears, at least on the face of it, to allow Boris Johnson to offer money directly to local authorities over the heads of all of our MSPs for whatever projects he sees fit. This is surely a bribe, is it not?
I wouldn't say it's a bribe. It's certainly a way of trying to influence people and their opinion of the UK government. But Effie gave a wonderful answer there. She covered every point.
She certainly did.
And yeah, it was amazing. And the thing is we've been saying this for quite a while now in Scotland, that there was going to be a power grab. We just didn't know when, but there was going to be an attempt. And, Brexit was kind of the perfect opportunity for that. And the fact that they are blatantly talking about breaking the law to do that is just unbelievable. But it just goes to show you the kind of sign of times that we're in at the moment in the UK and in the world as a whole. But yeah, it's a way of undermining the authority of the Scottish Parliament, and at the end of the day, we need to do something to get away from that. And basically, that's this full steam ahead with independence, and there's no other way we're going to get away from that. Otherwise, we're just going to lose all our rights, everything that we've had since the Act of the Union, plus more. We're going to lose all that. So I'm afraid that the only way we can get out of that is steam ahead with independence.
Right, well, okay, thanks for that, Sam. And I'd like to move on now to the possible ramifications of Boris Johnson's new legislation, and that the European Union apparently may take legal action against the UK over the new Brexit law. The European Union could take legal action under its divorce treaty with the UK if today's emergency talks do not reassure Brussels sufficiently that a proposed new British law will not break the previously agreed commitments. Following the latest round of talks, the EU's Vice President, Marcos Sefcovic, issued an ultimatum to the Tory government, calling on it to withdraw these measures from the draft bill in the shortest time possible, and in any case by the end of the month. Now, Sefcovic added that the EU does not accept the argument that the aim of the draft bill is to protect the Good Friday Agreement. In fact, it is of the view that it does the opposite. And as mentioned earlier on by Effie, Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the US House of Representatives, has again stated her opposition to the internal market bill. Pelosi believes that the legislation would undermine the Good Friday Agreement and risk a hard border in Ireland. Her stance is important because leading Democrats have said that if the UK undermined the Good Friday Agreement, they would seek to block a UK-US trade deal. Effie, here is an interesting take on what the European Union might be prepared to do in response to this. I've also heard that they might be prepared to take the UK to court. What's your view of this? What do the EU have in their quiver of weaponry here to strike back?
There are a number of remedies in international law, most definitely the European instruments, but also international instruments for enforcement. What I think is important here is to take stock of what's happened today in terms of the UK side. My personal interest today lay with the reaction of the wonderful Suella Braverman, who is not really known for her, the way, I mean, it's not as if her intellect is weighing too heavily on her. It's very, very interesting the way she responded, and I would urge people to look up that response. A known QC tweeted that her response was equivalent to an undergraduate's essay in a LLB course, which is what I took back in the 90s at Cambridge. Now, this is a very, very simplistic reaction to the outrage that was caused internationally by what was threatened yesterday. And I've got this document here in front of me. She invokes two things. She invokes, in relation to the protocol, she invokes Article 4 and Article 16. And she's saying that these were not considered sufficiently within the protocol. And that is precisely, since there was no determination by the Joint Committee as to the way forward, we propose to move and make determinations on that. Now, there is no legal detail in the document. There is no explanation, legal explanation, jurisprudential explanation as to what happened yesterday when a Minister of the Crown stood up in Parliament and said, yes, we will break international law in a limited and specific way, which I understand is unprecedented in the UK Parliament.
As far as I know,
so,
yes.
Yes, so she offered that, and I am also seeing a reaction by Michel Barnier. I believe that was issued today in relation to the ongoing negotiations, and he's very, very disappointed. It is a short letter. And he's setting out the areas of concern, which are obviously the guarantees of social, environmental, labor, and climate standards. Now, we know historically, Gordon, that, at least on the basis of my research, whenever the UK has positioned, if you like, placed obstacles against EU determinations or laws, that was to do mostly with these particular areas. So we're going back now to the 90s, and I believe there were 72 objections, I believe, historically against EU laws, and they were mostly to do with things like labeling, things like standards. So you have the very libertarian approach, the market-led approach, if you like, of the Anglosphere that says, oh, never mind, if it makes sense in market terms, we can just forget about it. Now, this doesn't work in European terms. Phytosanitary protections, pharmaceutical protections, environmental protections are right at the very top. And the UK is not committing to those. They're committing verbally, but when it comes to the document, they're regressing. So these are the areas that, you know, of concern, and obviously the EU reactions there. I've just tried to make it as brief as I could.
Listen, that was a very, very fulsome reply there, Effie. Thank you. Sam, Effie's covered a lot of ground there. But what's your reaction to this? The European Union is now set to take some kind of legal action against the UK. I have to wonder. I asked the question today whether the European Union would lose patience at this point and might decide that the transition period is over. But that would be to respond to the provocation. Is this just a provocation, do you think? Are they bluffing, or does the British government really mean this?
Well, I'm going to give a quick answer. I think the European Union have got no option but to take legal action on this. And I think the UK government are chancing their arm trying to get away with something that is, as we all know, is illegal. And I concur with everything that Effie said. There we go. There's a nice quick answer for you.
Fantastic, Sam. As succinct as ever. Okay, we're going to move on to more international news now. And in Belarus, a protest leader says that she was threatened with expulsion, alive or in bits. The Belarus opposition leader, Maria Kolesnikova, I managed to say that correctly for a change, said that security officers had put a bag over her head and threatened to kill her when they tried to forcibly deport her to the Ukraine earlier this week, according to a complaint filed by her lawyer. Kolesnikova, one of the most prominent leaders in the month-long protests against the rigged election in which Alexander Lukashenko claimed to have won with 80% of the vote, prevented the attempt to expel her by tearing up her passport. She has emerged as a hero for the protest movement, trying to bring down the curtain on Lukashenko's 26-year rule, and a chief target for the authorities, who have detained her on accusations of an illegal attempt to seize power in the former Soviet republic. She said in her statement that she had genuinely feared for her life during the failed deportation attempt. Effie, I'm going to come to you first again on this. Obviously, this is an ongoing story where almost every one of the leaders of Belarus's opposition has now been rounded up and either deported or detained, and this appears to be the final action in that particular regard. But this woman has now, I think, become something of a martyr because she had the very great presence of mind to tear up her own passport. A remarkably brave thing to do in the circumstances, wouldn't you say?
Yes, well, Belarusian women have shown themselves to be quite amazingly resilient through this. They have formed a fantastic opposition to Lukashenko. And what it demonstrates, I think, when you come to bare threats, this is unadulterated menace against a human being, to be referring to cutting them up and sending them away in bits or dead or alive. This demonstrates a degree of desperation, I think, on the part of Lukashenko, and he's clearly under a lot of pressure. I'm guessing also internationally, but equally, obviously, domestically as well. The Belarusians are showing a tremendous spirit. I do wish them well, and I'm sure we all do. It's a crazy thing to be witnessing in this day and age, but let's just hope that they won't suffer much more.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Effie. Sam, over to you for this. Now, this is, I think, very much a story about women, because it appears to me, at least, that women are at the forefront of this, as Effie was saying. How much influence are women now exerting in these sorts of areas? Is it, do you think, now almost changed from men leading these revolutions to women? Is this a new sort of trend, do you think?
I don't think it's a trend, Gordon. I think women have always been at the forefront of many revolutions, but they've been somehow in the background. Women are, by nature, are very, they like to kind of protect their families and protect, their communities and things. And, so I don't think, as I say, it's a trend, but these women are very, very brave in what they have done to stand up to Lukashenko, and because he is a tyrant. But one of the things that I found today on social media, which was he was given a talk to the security forces, and he basically says to the security forces, sometimes you have to break the law when you're facing horrible interference from abroad. So he's basically admitting there that sometimes he needs to break the law. And this is quite worrying, and it's worrying because this seems to be a kind of similar trend with the UK government as well, this kind of mindset. So it's quite worrying. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing, and and for a leader to openly admit that he's willing to break the law, just goes to show you the seriousness of what's going on in Belarus and how brave these women are to stand up to this tyrant, and and I wish solidarity with them, and I wish them all the best, and it's great to see that they're not standing down. And they are standing their ground, and the protests have been majority peaceful, and that's that hats off to them. They are doing an amazing job, and hopefully they keep on going and they keep gaining strength and they topple Lukashenko.
Well, that's certainly, I think, echoing the sentiments of many people this evening, Sam. Okay, well, thank you for that. Let's move on now to the United Kingdom again, and Westminster must get its act together on green energy, so says the SNP. Now, the SNP's spokesperson for energy and climate change has told the UK government to get its act together on green energy after the UK's first Citizens' Climate Assembly called for an increased investment in wind and solar energy. The majority of participants in the Assembly also agreed that nuclear power should be scrapped. Alan Brown MP has said that investing in renewable energy must be at the forefront of the UK's green recovery following the economic crisis caused by the global coronavirus pandemic. And he's criticised the Westminster government for wasting years obsessing over nuclear power. The SNP has called on the UK government to give further support to critical renewables industry by, first of all, ensuring that green energy projects get the long-term certainty needed to support investment to deliver wave and tidal energy industrial strategy with lots of adequate funding. Now, reforming the punitive transmission charging regime that discourages investment in Scotland, and setting clear timescale for the delivery of interconnectors. So there are a lot of things in this request, and it seems that the UK government has been very slow to act on this. Now, Effie, it's fairly obvious that the SNP is really trying to light a fire, if you'll pardon the expression, in these days of low carbon emissions under the Westminster government to get its act together on renewable energy and green technology. How much notice do you think Westminster will pay to this?
Well, traditionally they haven't paid much, so I don't think, don't hold your breath. Scotland is known for its renewables. We have, with obviously being a University of Glasgow person, I am very aware of the research going on around renewables. Scotland is also very, very precious in terms of the natural resources, in terms of tidal energy, in terms of oil and wave and all this stuff. So it's something that we have taken an interest in traditionally, and the EU have invested heavily in renewables and research. Westminster is not going to do anything about it.
Okay, thanks very much, Effie. Coming over to you, Sam, do you agree with Effie on this? Do you think the British government is just not going to listen and they're just going to keep dragging their heels?
They're not going to listen, Gordon. They're not interested in renewable green energy. They're interested in making a quick buck. And that's basically the bottom line. So that's all I can say on the matter.
All right, well, thank you again for your brevity there, Sam. Okay, and moving on to this evening. Now, further quarantine measures are to be introduced for travellers. Travellers from Hungary and La Réunion are required to self-isolate at home or other specific address for 14 days on arrival in Scotland from 4 a.m. on Saturday morning, the 12th of September. Now, this is due to a significant rise in cases of coronavirus in these locations and the associated risk of importation into Scotland by people who have arrived from them. Sweden will be added to the exemption list, meaning that those travelling to Scotland from Sweden will no longer be required to quarantine from 4 a.m. on Saturday morning. Now, very briefly, Effie, again, constantly changing sort of global picture of COVID-19. How important are these quarantine measures? How vital are they to the health of Scotland at the moment?
Well, they're vital. And anyone who wants to complain about this, they need to just be quiet and read the guidelines. This virus was transmitted by people coming into close contact with other people. So if there are clusters, if there are areas where we see a surge in the virus, in the numbers, they need to be observed very, very closely. The statistics, the data will be changing. This is what we're going to have to deal with until a vaccine or a therapeutic method is found. Now we need to get used to it, and we need to act accordingly. There is no point complaining. There's no point moaning about it. We just need to do this. It's very, very important. It's vital in the transmission of the virus and in making sure that we suppress it. So yeah, it will be changing. Just keep an eye out for countries, and don't travel if you don't have to.
Okay, thanks very much, Effie. Sam, what do you think? Are you tempted now to just stay at home? Would you be bothered to go abroad for a holiday now, knowing what we know at the moment?
Definitely not, Gordon. I wouldn't take the risk, and I wouldn't be willing to put myself in that situation or my family in that situation. But everybody has got their own opinion regarding that one. But I think if you tend to go abroad on holiday, you're just going to have to get used to the fact that advice is going to change very, very quickly. And, you know, when you leave the airport and holiday, there is a possibility that when you are about to return, the advice is going to change and you're going to have to go into quarantine. And this is something, as Effie says, this is something we're all going to have to get used to. And this is something that when people are going abroad, they're going to have to add into their plans.
Yeah.
You know, a holiday is no longer going to be 10 days. It is going to be 24 days effectively. So they're going to have to kind of work that one out with their employers if they want to go abroad. Otherwise, stay at home and go have a staycation instead.
Okay, well, that's terrific. I'm a big fan of staycations myself. And now coming back home again, if you like, back to Scotland, and there's been health guidance issued for students. Scotland's most senior clinicians have written a joint open letter to college and university students with advice on what to do if they develop a cold or flu-like symptoms during the coronavirus pandemic. Dr. Gregor Smith, the Interim Chief Medical Officer, Professor Fiona McQueen, Chief Nursing Officer, and Professor Jason Leach, the National Clinical Director, also reiterate that students need to be tested for COVID-19 if they experience any of the three main symptoms: a new and continuous cough, a fever, or a high temperature and loss or change in their sense of taste and smell. And the letter states that it's essential for anyone who has COVID-19 symptoms or shares a household with someone who has symptoms that they do not attend college or university classes and self-isolate. And if you are in contact with a positive case, you may be asked to have a test yourself. And it's important to remember that even if your test is subsequently negative, you still have to continue to isolate for 14 days. If, however, you don't have symptoms of COVID-19 but have either cold or flu-like symptoms, you do not need to be tested and you do not need to self-isolate. You can attend university or college if you're fit to do so. So again, Effie, some more specific advice aimed at students, and of course they're all going back to university in the coming days, and I know that a lot of young people are concerned about this. But this advice seems very simple and straightforward. Do you think there's any issue here for them?
I don't. In fact, I've been emailed this advice myself as part of Glasgow University. There's been a number of letters and attachments to emails which have arrived. I would urge students to please open these attachments, read them carefully. If you are coming into Glasgow from an international destination, you're very, very welcome. We love to have you, but you must adhere to these rules. If you are in any doubt, contact your tutor or program leader. They will be able to advise you. If you have any problems understanding the advice, there are translanguaging and translating services within all Scottish universities who will point you in the right direction. And you need to exercise a huge amount of caution and personal judgment in ensuring that you don't expose yourself to danger or others to danger. There will also be very detailed plans of your course work and attendance. So a lot of the face-to-face tutorials which we've had previously might have been moved online.
Yeah.
Other courses, which include lab work and things like that, which have to be attended physically. Again, there will be social distancing measures. You really need to read and understand what you're reading and do as you're told.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Effie. Sam, I'm not sure if any of your young ones are heading to university or college at the moment, but do you think this puts a little bit of the onus on the parents to make sure that they actually adhere to these rules?
As a parent of a teenager, no, he's got an apprenticeship, so he's not heading to college or university. But the problem is it's very difficult, isn't it? Because when you're at that age, all us golden oldies saying things, we feel, it's like preaching. They think you're just preaching to them. And the thing is, we've got to remember what we were like when we were students and we were at college and university, and how we related to the adults and trying to preach to us and give us really good advice. And I really feel it for the students, because they have entered into a situation that we never had to deal with ever.
Yeah.
And I just hope that and I'm sure, as Effie was saying there, all the support is there, all the support mechanisms are there for them, for reassurance, and they will be fine as long as they comply with everything. They will be fine, and hopefully they still manage to enjoy a certain element of student life, because that's part of that's the sad bit. The part of the fun of student life is being able to socialise,
Yeah.
and that they're going to miss out on that. And my heart goes out to them, and my heart absolutely goes out to them. But I wish them all the best in starting university and college, and I hope they all stay safe.
That's all anybody can wish for, Sam, hopefully. Okay, and returning now to Scotland once again, and all of Scotland's 32 local authorities and more than 25 individual community regeneration projects will receive a share of £30 million of new investment for regeneration and town centres. The funding will be available immediately through the Regeneration Capital Grant Fund and the Town Centre Fund, delivered through a partnership between the Scottish Government and COSLA, which is the Confederation of Scottish Local Authorities, the Govan Hill Baths refurbishment in Glasgow, Mid Mills in Inverness, which will support creative industries and social enterprises in the Highlands, and the Moss Edge Centre, which will be a multi-purpose facility for use by the surrounding communities in Linwood, Renfrewshire, are among the community-led regeneration projects that will benefit from this funding. So, Effie, this is another piece of good news. The Scottish Government doing its day job and supporting regeneration of certain parts of their town centres. A good news story, yeah?
Well, and most timely as well, because obviously right in the middle of a pandemic, a lot of people are suffering, a lot of industries are suffering. I think supporting social enterprise is huge at the moment. And Scotland is known for its very entrepreneurial spirit. So, supporting it with actual material support and funding is fantastic. A lot of young people and a lot of people who are also mid-career or later on in their career, and they're having to purpose their skills, will be benefiting from this. So very welcome news.
Right, okay, well, that's terrific. Sam, what's your reaction to this? As I say, it's a good news story. How important are our town centres, do you think, to Scotland's life and culture?
They are so important. I know in Dumbarton town centre that is badly needing regenerated. The designs of late have just been so terrible. And the thing is the Dumbarton town centre, I remember as a kid growing up, was the heart of the community, where people knew everybody, each other, and people generally just blethered to each other. And you always had people kind of, just sitting in the town centre in the summertime, having a bit of lunch or going down the quay. So, the town centres are so important. And at the moment, our town centres are changing with internet shopping and so forth. And with COVID at the moment, the town centres are really, really struggling. there's been a few different changes at Dumbarton where there's been someone that opened up a wee takeaway shop, which was a cafe, and they've made it into a wee, and it's absolutely cracking what they've done to this place. And you can't enter it. They've turned the doorway into a counter, and basically you get served food, and that was done through COVID. So there is lots of different things, but we've also but there's loads of places right across Scotland that really badly need to be regenerated to bring it up to modern times and modern way of living, and especially on a post-COVID world, and how we go on from there as well.
Sam, just one final question, if I may, and a brief answer, if you would. How important do you think it is, or what role do you think social enterprises could play in the regeneration of our town centres?
Social enterprises really do play an important role, because they are at the heart of the communities. They are the communities, and when regeneration of town centres go badly wrong, it's when the community has not been involved in the regeneration. And they don't understand the needs of the local people. They don't understand how the town centre works. And social enterprises right now, they are supporting local communities. They are offering people a chance and support to build up their own business and become self-employed. You see social enterprises in so many different aspects, but round about here, it's allowing people to take that step into self-employment and build a business, which is really great to see, because especially at the moment, people are facing so many redundancies and uncertain future. So yeah, I think we need to be supporting social enterprises quite a lot at the moment, to basically reignite the economy.
Okay, listen, thank you very much, Sam, and also Effie. But just before I leave you, I just wanted to bring you some sad news, which is that the actor Dame Diana Rigg has died at the age of 82. Actor Diana Rigg, known for her roles on the stage and in film and television, including The Avengers and on Her Majesty's Secret Service, has died at the age of 82. Rigg, who rose to prominence in the 1960s through her starring role as Emma Peel in The Avengers alongside Patrick Macnee, enjoyed a long and varied career playing Lady Olenna Tyrrell in HBO's smash hit The Game of Thrones, and a show she admitted in 2019 that she had never watched. She also played the Countess Teresa de Vicencio, or Tracy Bond, in James Bond's first and only wife to date in the 1969 film On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Confirming her death, her agent said that Rigg had died peacefully on Thursday morning, adding that she had been at home with her family, who have asked for privacy at this difficult time. Her daughter, the actor Rachel Stirling, said that Rigg had been diagnosed with cancer in March and had spent her last months joyfully reflecting on her extraordinary life, full of love, laughter and a deep pride in her profession, and I'll miss her beyond words. So I'm sorry, a little bit of a sad note to end on this evening. But just before we actually leave you tonight, and hopefully on a more optimistic note, we are at the moment looking as if we really need to be getting ready for the next general election and obviously a potential independence referendum. Now, here at Broadcasting Scotland, we want you to support us through the next coming months to make sure that we are providing the programming that you need and the coverage that you need of our own Parliament and also of the coming general election campaigns. And to do that, we need your help. And we are strongly asking everybody who enjoys this programme and others to support Scotland at 7 and to support Broadcasting Scotland by becoming a supporter. To do that, you just follow the prompts on the screen now by going to broadcastingscotland.scot/register, then follow the prompts. That's about it from my guests, Effie Samara and Sam Paton this evening, so thank you to both of them. But from all of us here at Scotland at 7, that's it for tonight's episode, and a very good evening to you. Excellent.